Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going over the Sig Sauer MK25 pistol that you see here and that you saw throughout the intro. This one, of course, has a lot of notoriety behind it because it's been used by the Navy SEALs for the better part of 2 decades. I believe it was actually officially adopted in 1987 as their standard service pistol. And recently, as many of you guys know, they've started switching over to the Glock 19. So taking a look at this pistol here, we're going to take a look at it for what it is, basically to see whether or not the Glock 19 was a good adoption in favor of it. But I'd be willing to bet that there are still a lot of SEALs running around with the MK25 in their holster over the Glock 19. So what we're going to do next is take a closer look at this sucker, some of the details of it, what makes it the actual MK25 designation versus other 226s compared to a few other competitors out there, and then come back at the end and let you know what we think of it overall. Getting into the details of the MK25 model, I think it's kind of important to show a more sort of standard Sig 226. So I'll give you guys, I have tons of 226s, so we'll be able to show you some pretty good comparisons. So here's more of a sort of baseline 226 that you see here. This one has actually some of the features of the MK25, but not all. So there's going to be a lot of parts that are different on the MK25, and the basic gist of it is that the MK25 has all carbon steel internal parts, with the exception of springs. Basically, that's going to include the decocker, which is what you see right here. That's actually phosphated. It's one of the easiest ways to tell the difference between an MK25, even if that wasn't there. And you can see that phosphated decocker. You see the different coloration. Very easy to see. So that's one of them. The mag release, the locking insert on the inside, the recoil spring guide rod. This one's going to be metal. Some of these 226s and standard 226s are polymer, and the slide lock as well back here is also carbon steel. So other differences that we're going to point out. So obviously we have the little navy anchor here that definitely makes it stand out versus the other ones. Same with the UID tag up there. So those are definitely the most obvious, but we also have one that's a very big deal for those of you guys that are holster shopping. So the MK25 has a 1913 style rail up front. This one and most other standard 226s, even ones with rails, because obviously not all have them, you can see have sort of a rounded rail. Now most lights like your TLRs and your Surefires and stuff will work on there. Sometimes they need a different insert, it sort of just depends, but with the 1913 style rail, really all of them will work on there. It's pretty much the universal mount for light mounts. So that's one thing that a lot of folks like. The downside of that is that if you're getting holsters and not using a light, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to find for the MK25. Now, if you slap a light on there, it doesn't matter. Any light holster for the 226 will fit the MK25 just fine. Moving on to comparison with some of the older SIGs here now. This is a P226 that was made in West Germany. So this one here is actually going to have a carbon slide. So this MK25 has a stainless steel slide. So as the production moved over to the USA, and actually even some of the German ones, they switched to the stainless sides because they found it held up a little bit better to the high pressure loads, plus P and so forth. So all the new 226s will have that stainless steel slide versus the carbon steel. Flipping it over. One thing you'll also notice is that the MK25 will have the external extractor versus the internal extractor on some of the older ones. Now, I should note this is kind of a controversial thing in the SIG community, the internal versus external extractor fans. One thing I'll say is that I've had both. I've had no issues with either. Both work fine in my opinion, so no problems from me. But if you go on like a SIG forum or something like that, you guys are going to see a lot of discussion about that. So be that as it may. Another difference you're going to see with the MK25 and even some of the newer 226s is the direction of the serrations. So on the older ones, we have serrations that are going to be vertical in nature. On the MK25, they're going to be horizontal. So I personally much prefer horizontal. Honestly, I don't see any advantage to having them vertical because as the gun recoils in your hand, it doesn't give you any traction versus the horizontal ones, which will give you a little bit of traction and extra purchase there. So definitely prefer that. The MK25, the grips there are polymer and they have sort of a pebble finish to it. I personally like it. Some of the older ones are going to be checkered. Some of the newer ones are also going to have the E2 grip, which is going to be a little bit smaller. Again, that's going to be sort of a personal preference thing. I have relatively large hands, so I actually like these better than E2 grips, but again, it's sort of a personal preference thing. The basic controls of the pistol, we have our magazine release here on the left-hand side, so not exactly left-handed friendly there, as well as our decocker. So if you guys look, when you have your hammer back after your initial shot, at any point, if you want to put the rifle back into double action mode, you can just press down the decocker. It will safely decock it, and of course it does have a block as the hammer is going down, so that way it cannot engage while you do that, safely lowering it down. That way you don't have to thumb it down like you do on some of the old school pistols that were around when this gun was devised. So at the time, that was certainly a good thing. It still is to this day. We have our slide lock back here. One thing I'll tell you is that folks who are used to shooting Glocks and M&Ps and some other more modern striker-fired guns, the location of that can be problematic with folks who ride it. So if you have a very high grip, like is taught in most modern schools of shooting these days, a lot of times folks will ride it and they won't get that last round hold open. Now, a very easy fix for this that one of my old Navy friends told me is basically when you have your thumbs up on a more traditional grip, if you just put it on top of your knuckle, you'll avoid that and really have very minimal difference in your grip and grip pressure. So folks who shoot the 226 or really any SIG that has the decocker feature and the slide release right there, there's a tip for you. It works for me, and I've not had any issues since I've done that. Moving forward, we have our takedown lever, which we'll show you here in just a second. And over on the opposite side, you see we have nothing smooth finish, nothing to snag or get in the way or anything like that. But I know some of you left-handed folks aren't going to like that. Disassembly of the pistol is very simple, easy maintenance. So we're going to release the magazine. I should note it comes with 3 15-round magazines. These are the US made magazines. Now in the past, and I'll stick by this, in some of the SIG reviews I've done, I've stated that if I ever have trouble with SIGs, it tends to be the US made mags. That's just the way it is. That said, with this one, the 3 that have come with it, I've not had a single issue. It's been 100% reliable with any kind of ammunition or the mags that we put in there. So that said, I'm a huge fan of the Metgar mags, just throwing that out there, can't hide it. But these ones have worked well. If you ever have any issues though, definitely check it out and see if some Metgar mags will solve it. Anyway, 3 15-round mags that come with it. And to disassemble, we're going to lock the slide to the rear by pushing up here on our slide lock. While pushing back on the slide, we're going to rotate this lever down 90 degrees, ensuring that the pistol is clear. It is. And we're just going to slowly let it go forward. There you go. Now we're going to remove our spring and recoil guide rod and remove our barrel. That's your field strip pistol. With the gun apart here, you'll see that it is a Browning lock breech design. So very traditional unlocking and locking procedure. It's a proven design. It's worked well. Obviously CZ75s, Browning high powers, Glocks, etc. Many very, very reliable pistols use it and it works well. The barrel though is chrome lined, which is going to be one of the differences from some of the other SIG pistols. Got another one here just to show you. That one there is not chrome lined versus the MK25 that does have the chrome lining on there. So chrome chamber all the way through. And that's just another one of the corrosion resistant features of the gun. Obviously it's designed to be used around the water like we talked about. So that's an added bonus for it. It'll also give the barrel a little bit better life. So as we reassemble it, we're just going to put our barrel back in. And you should note too, while we have it apart, that it just has excellent machining all the way around. There's one thing that SIGs are known for, and that's just making a quality pistol. This one's no different. I mean, all the chatter marks are removed, very smooth, great lines all the way throughout. We do have that steel recoil guide rod that we mentioned, and some of the other 226s will have the polymer one. So put that back in place, and now we're just going to line it up on the rails. You can see we do have almost full length rails throughout, so very good support, and it also helps to give it pretty good accuracy as well. And once we lock it to the rear, I'm just going to rotate that back, and it's reassembled. The P226 is a very common gun. However, My local gun shops, they just don't have them in stock. So if you've never seen one before, we're going to give you a quick size comparison and show you how it stacks up versus a few other guns out there on the market. This one here is the Beretta 92. It's obviously highly modified by Wilson Combat, but size-wise, it's going to be the same as the 92A1. This gun here has a great history with the 226. They're linked for over 20 years now, so they went through the same trials together. Obviously, the Beretta won out. Most folks say because of a cost issue, but these are the only two pistols that passed the trials back in the 80s for the new service pistols. So very good pistols all the way around. And in terms of size, the Beretta is definitely bigger and chunkier overall, but the 226, the MK25, still comes in at 34 ounces, so it's no lightweight at all. You can see how they sort of stack up there comparison-wise. The CZ75 was also very popular around the time that 226 was coming around. This one here is a little bit slimmer. However, it is an all stainless gun, so it's going to be a little bit heavier. You can see how those stack up there size-wise. Pretty similar actually overall in size. Now the slide's a little bit thinner for sure, but very similar in size overall. Probably the most popular full-size 9mm pistol here in the US is going to be the Glock 17. This is a Vickers RTF2 finish, but otherwise it's the same as most Glock 17s out there. You can see how those stack up. Now, of course, the big advantage of that the Glock's going to have is going to be the weight category. Certainly lighter than the 226. It's also going to be a little bit thinner, but for most folks who are carrying guns professionally, the thinness isn't that big of a deal. Most folks aren't concealed carrying either of these two. I know people do it, but I would say that the majority of folks are not doing that. But very similar in overall size, just the weight a little bit heavier there on the MK25. Earlier in the video, I mentioned that it comes with the USA made mags. I should also point out that these are all made in New Hampshire as well. That's part of the contract for all the US military service pistols, that they be made in the US. And of course, a lot of SIG pistols are also made up there, not just the MK25. So a couple things we left out is that it does have the nitron finish all the way around. It's a very corrosion resistant finish. It's holding up just fine on here. And really, I've had several pistols with that finish and it's held up just fine on all of them. So good solid finish all the way around, resisting rust and holster wear. So it also has the Sig 3-dot night sights. In terms of 3-dot night sights, I do like these a good bit. They're all metal, and the rear sight has a good ledge on it, so that way if you would need to do one-handed manipulations or anything like that, it's very easy off a belt, a boot, a table, whatever the case may be, whatever you have available. So all in all, a very, very high quality pistol like we talked about. I believe the price on these suckers comes in generally in the $850 to $950 range, so it's very expensive. Now, in the beginning of the video, I mentioned the switch to the Glock 19 for some of the SEAL units out there, so SEAL teams. So, is it a good decision? Well, obviously, if you're talking about any kind of special operations unit, there really is kind of a lot of latitude given to it, so most of those members can choose what they want. But the Glock 19 obviously is a very, very good pistol. It's been performing well for decades as well. This one has as well. So with the Glock 19, you get a little bit lighter pistol for sure. Very similar, if not the same capacity. A smaller overall package, but as a duty pistol, a duty size pistol, i.e. you're not concealed carrying it, I think the MK25 really has a lot going for it. It's very durable, like we talked about. It's very reliable. It's one of the most reliable pistols on the planet, even to this day, and it's been in that realm for, like I said, over 20 years. So it's built a long reputation of reliability. It's very shootable, easy to shoot well. One knock against it that I didn't mention so far is, like all the P series pistols, it has somewhat of a high bore access, even for a hammer fire pistol. That said, 9mm, I don't think it's that big of a deal. You can definitely get follow-up shots with it pretty fast, especially if you're a proficient shooter. It's really not much of an issue at all there. So all in all, the switch to the 19, I suppose, it's kind of a personal preference and a mission preference as well, but both of them are good pistols. The MK25 is still very relevant in 2016, as well as all the other 226 variants out there. Just good all the way around. One thing a lot of folks wish they did on this pistol was give it the short reset trigger that SIG has. It does not have it, but neither does the actual MK25 that's in service with the Navy. So they tried to stay as true as they could to it, and they did a very good job on it. I don't mind the trigger at all. The double action pull is right around 10 pounds on this one. And the single action is right at, I believe on my trigger gauge, it was 4.6 pounds. Very easy to shoot well. It's got some over travel, but it's a service pistol and not that big a deal in my opinion. If you practice with a double action, single action trigger, proficiency with it in terms of shooting good groups at distance is not an issue at all. I think that's about it. If you guys have any questions that we didn't cover here in the review, by all means, you can post below in the comments section. You can also post over at my Facebook page as always, but thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so, and we'll see you guys in the next video.